excited. All right, now sharing to YouTube, going live. Good afternoon, Camilla. How are you today?
Good afternoon.
Oh, wow, we have 10 students.
Awesome.
Okay, welcome everyone. Oh my God, you guys are prompt.
There we
Punctual.
go.
Okay,
Coming on,
20. All right. Wow. Welcome everyone. Welcome to day 3 of International Education Week. I am your host and moderator, Jody Ann Jones, and I'm joined by my lovely colleague here, Camilla. Camilla is going to share some exciting, well, is it exciting? Some very informative points with you. So we just wait for everyone to get in. I see you guys were just waiting. All right, 22. Cool. How's your day been, Camilla?
Been pretty good.
Oh, hi, parents. I'm sorry. Hello to students and parents.
I'm glad that your parents are in too. That is extremely important.
Very important. Very important indeed. Yes.
No, day's been good. I did some interviews this morning. So yeah, we are fully operational here in Embassy Kingston in our consular section. Unfortunately, we're not able to process as many, cases as we'd like. We are still at a limited capacity. But yeah, we are interviewing daily. We are here daily. And of course, we always love our students. So I'm very happy and excited to be here to talk to our students and parents and educators. If we have any of those, we're so happy to be able to host this and talk to you guys and hopefully answer some of your questions when it comes to applying for your student visa.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much for volunteering to do this, Camilla. They have a lot of questions. They've been asking me questions since Monday. I'm like, hold the question, sign up for the webinar on Thursday.
Yes.
So we're now up to 27. I think we can, it's up to you, Camilla. So this is being live streamed on YouTube and recorded also. So, so whenever you're ready to start, we're good to go. We can, if anybody joins in late, I can share the recording with them. Okay. Oh, hold on, I have a question. Hold on. Atia. All right, so guys, so drop your questions in the Q&A, and after the presentation, we will field whatever questions you may have. So drop it in the Q&A here. And also let me share a couple links in the chat before we start. And I should probably pin it. So first things first, sign up for the rest of our webinars. We have several webinars coming up. So today we have 2 more webinars after this one, immediately following this one, and tomorrow we have 3 webinars. So let me just go over the schedule with you real quick while we wait on people to get in. So at 2 o'clock we have an information session from the University of Rochester. At 3 p.m. we have an information session by FIU, Florida International University.
My alma mater.
And tomorrow, starting at 1, we have an information session on the Fulbright graduate student program. So for those parents, educators, students who are interested in doing your master's or PhD in the US, that is a session you definitely do not want to miss. At 2 p.m., we have an information session by St. Francis College. And at 3, our grand finales with Lynn University, where they'll share information on both their undergraduate and graduate programs. So please make sure you sign up for all these webinars. Lots of information here, guys. And like I said before, this is all being streamed on YouTube. So if you miss anything, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Let me drop the channel in the chat as well. Shameless plug for US Embassy Jamaica here. All right. So yeah, so Camilla, I will give you the floor, my friend.
Okay, sounds good. Hi everyone, my name is Camila. I am one of the consular officers here in Jamaica. Some of you may recognize me from Consular Conversations, or if you've come to get a student visa in the past couple of years, I've been here. Very happy to be here. And yeah, I'm very happy to be presenting today on US visas and how to go through the process of getting your student visa and what that means, right? And as a reminder, if you are a Jamaican or if you reside in the Cayman Islands, Embassy Kingston, we are the ones who will do your student visas. So they are processed by where you live or reside. So this mainly falls for our Jamaicans and Caymani residents. You guys will be coming to Embassy Kingston for your visas, for your student visas. So let's talk a little bit about just studying in the United States. So when it comes to international students, right, we in 2018, we had about 1,094,792 international students in the United States. And recently it did show that even, throughout COVID and such, the United States is still the #1 destination for international students. And, the reason is because the US has so much to offer when it comes to education. And we love to see international students coming to the United States to study, because not only does it give those international students insight into what it is that our education system looks like, it also gives us insight into what all those international students normally go through in their home countries. And, it really creates more of a global community within universities. So international students are always valued, especially in the United States. So as you can see, we also do a lot of study. We have a lot of study abroad students. So if by chance you guys don't want to necessarily study in the United States for all 4 years, you can also participate in study abroad programs in which you can go to a university for a semester or a year in the United States, and have a little bit of that US education experience, so that you can then come home and say, I attended a university in the US, and try and learn that culture a little bit, right? So yeah, we normally see increases when it comes to how many international students are enrolled in academic programs in the United States. So again, I say we truly do value and love our international students. And we understand that it can be daunting as an international student to be in a country where possibly, you're not aware of how things function and how the education system works. And we understand that sometimes it does not. Sometimes it is hard to get accustomed to being in a different setting, but we are more than happy to have our international students with us and joining us. I'm also very sorry for not resuming my PowerPoint, but I promise you guys did not miss too much on those slides. So going on to the visa application process. So of course, before you even do the visa application process, please make sure that you have been accepted into a United States university or college. You cannot go through that process or receive a student visa if you have not been admitted into a US education, university, institution, anything like that. So once it is that you receive acceptance, that's when you can start looking for your student visa. So you're going to go to that lovely hyperlink to create a profile. The easiest way to find it is usvisa-info.com, right? So you want to go there, and you will be taken to the non-immigrant visa side of the house, which is where our student visas are located. Our student visas are under the F category. So an F1 visa is also known as a student visa. That is the visa that our students would be applying for, right? So you want to complete your DS 160. That is just a form in which you fill out, and that is part of your application process for your student visa. And once you receive, you finalize that application, you're going to print the barcode confirmation sheet. You will need that for when you come into the embassy, so that once you come into the embassy, they scan that barcode and we know exactly who you are. We have all of your information, and we can, start processing you through, right? Of course, you do have to pay a fee both for your student visa, but also a SEVIS fee. So when it comes to the student visa, which is what you would pay the embassy, you can pay that fee online or at an NCB location. When it comes to your SEVIS fee, which is needed in general if you have been accepted into a US institution or university, then you go to fmjfee.com, and that's where you pay your SEVIS fee. Please ensure that when you come, and we'll talk about the different documents you're going to need when you come to your interview, but that is one of the crucial documents that we do need to see. We need to make sure that you have paid your SEVIS. The reason is because your SEVIS basically tells us that, yes, a university has accepted you, right? That is the indicator for us to confirm that. So again, make sure that you pay your SEVIS and you bring that receipt to your interview. And yes, of course, you need to schedule your appointment for your visa interview. So I'm sure a lot of people, the biggest question is probably, well, we know appointments right now in Kingston are limited. So when it comes to student visas, especially since we know that students go up either for the spring or fall semesters, even for summer, right? During the months before, we always try to open up availability for our student visas. The reason is because, we understand that you guys, once you are approved to go to a school, you have to start the semester that you've been approved for. So we do try and accommodate students as much as possible. For those people that might be looking right now and can't find a student visa appointment, say in the next couple of months, what you would then do is find the nearest student visa availability. And if you need an earlier appointment because your semester starts before your before the interview date you find, then you can ask for an expedited appointment. We do try and expedite those appointments for our student visas so that they can get to the United States on time to start their programs. Okay. So coming to the embassy, of course, you will receive an appointment time. And while we do love that people show up very early, we do ask, especially nowadays during COVID times, that you arrive no more than 15 minutes before your interview. The reason we ask this is because we do still have very strict protocols when it comes to social distancing and how many people we can have in our waiting areas. So we do ask you to please stick to your appointment time so that we can filter everyone through with the time that they are there, that they have been scheduled for, right? Then of course, you're gonna queue up for your security screening. That is just for you to pass through. And in a little bit, I will go over some of the things that you can bring into the embassy and some of the things that you can't bring into the embassy, okay? The third step, once you go through security, our intake staff will look at your documents and then they will call you up to be fingerprinted. This has to happen for any person, any applicant coming into the embassy that is 14 or over. So that does include most of our students. So your fingerprints will be taken at intake, And then from there, you will go and be interviewed by a consular officer. So someone like me, who will be asking you questions, and we'll go over some of those questions. And again, what it is that we look for when we're looking and evaluating our students. Okay. So what to expect? The interview will probably last less than 3 minutes. Yes. It's actually a pretty quick interview. Again, we might look at your documents and we might not. For most of our students, I will say that we normally do look at the documents that you bring, because they are necessary for us to be able to evaluate where it is you're going, if you have the funds, for example. And of course, the officer will also ask a lot of personal questions. This is just for us to get a scope of what it is that the student is bringing to the table and why they want to be a student in the US. We definitely want to know why it is that you want to study in the US. That is one of the primary questions we ask. So when it comes to qualifying for a visa, not everyone qualifies. So let's go over what it means to be qualifying for that student visa. So what you have to do is convince the consular officer that you are a credible and qualified student. Of course, this probably, if you've been accepted into a US university or college, you are probably a credible and qualified student. But if you are someone who maybe took some time off and now you want to go back to school, please make sure that you have an explanation on why it was you took that time off and what it is you want, or what type of student it is you are going to be, or why you want to study now after your break, right? The other thing we do definitely need to see is your ability to pay for your planned studies. So a consular officer has to be able to confirm that you can pay for at least the first year of your studies. What this means is that we need to ensure, of course, that you are able to cover the cost of a US education. And then, of course, you do have to have what we call credible post-education plans. So basically, we're just going to ask, why do you want this degree? What is it you want to do with this degree? And because we do want to know why it is you want to study in the US and what your end result or end goal is in receiving that US education. All right. So going into those security tips, when it comes to the things that can come through into the embassy. So you can bring a small bag with your application materials, and you can bring open envelopes. The envelopes do have to be open. You cannot pass the consular officer a closed envelope, okay? Forbidden items, you cannot bring backpacks, briefcases, cell phones, sealed envelopes, or food and beverages. So when you are planning to come to the embassy, please remember all of the things that you can bring and all of the things that you can't bring, okay? So again, let's go over these essential documents. The first one is your Form I-20. That is the one that you can see where it says your class of admission is F1, and that is issued to you by the Department of Homeland Security. The Form I-20 is extremely important when it comes to adjudicating your student visa. The reason is it shows us that you have your English proficiency. It shows that you have been accepted into a school and that school has gone through the process of accepting you. So there should be a school official's signature on there. It will have your SEVIS ID number, which again is very important because that shows us that you have gone through the process of applying and being accepted into a university. And then, of course, your tuition and finances. So what your I-20 will show you, especially if you have received a scholarship, is the total amount that scholarship is compared to the total amount of cost of the entire year. And that's why we definitely need the Form I-20, because it shows us how much is needed for your first year. And then that is how we evaluate your finances and how much, to compare those numbers, right? So make sure you have your I-20. Again, that's your most important document, really. But also, if you do have scholarships and stuff, it never hurts to also bring your documents that show, oh, I have received a scholarship, this is the amount, because sometimes an officer might want to compare the two just to make sure that scholarship was given to you, right? The other important thing about your Form I-20 is that this is actually the document that you need in order to enter the United States as a student if you are granted a student visa. So our Customs and Border Patrol will look at your I-20, particularly because your I-20 also details the start date for your program. And you have a certain amount of time before and after that start date to enter the United States, okay? And that's also a reminder for all of my F1 students, make sure you always travel with your Form I-20. Okay, so a couple of warnings. Please do not bring any fake documents to the US Embassy. It doesn't happen often, but we do sometimes see fake documents. And the fake documents can make you permanently ineligible for a visa to the United States. So that means that not only would you not receive a student visa, you may also not be able to receive any other type of visa afterward if you present us with any fake documents. So please make sure that you have original bona fide documents that pertain to you. And of course, being permanently ineligible for a US visa has serious implications. Because again, if you receive a job offer from the United States, but you have a permanent ineligibility, it is likely that you would not be able to take up that offer because you cannot be granted any type of visa, right? So that's just a warning, and hopefully, that's not a problem, but just in case. So of course, after the interview, if your visa is approved, the officer is going to keep your passport. The reason the officer has to keep your passport is because we have to put your visa into your passport, okay? It normally does take us about 1 to 2 weeks to process the cases. So keep that in mind when you are applying as well as booking your appointment for your interview. There is a processing time between your interview, printing out your visa, and you receiving your visa, okay? You can travel within 30 days of the start of your Form I-20, which is why I said it's very important. That I-20 form is very important. So again, you can travel within 30 days of the start date. And if you find that you cannot go prior to your start date, what you will need to ask your international student coordinator at the university you're going to is a late arrival letter. The embassy does not provide that. That should be provided by the school. So again, if you find that on your I-20, you're not going to make it by your start date, please make sure you reach out to your international student advisor or any advisor you have at the university that you've been corresponding with to make sure that they write you a late arrival letter, okay? And of course, you will receive an email from the courier service when your passport is ready for pickup. So that's, of course, if you have been approved. If you've been refused, the officer will provide you in writing with an explanation on their decision. And of course, if you are refused, this is not a permanent refusal. You can always reapply, but make sure that when you reapply, you do meet those qualifications of a student visa. And simply changing schools will not improve your chances of being issued a visa, okay? Sometimes our cases are put in administrative processing. So what that means is that, there might be a little additional work that needs to be done, or there are documents that you did not bring to your interview that we need you to provide to us. So those cases, for the most part, take about 30 to 60 days to resolve. But again, we try and, with our students at least, we do try and speed that up a little bit because, again, we know that you guys have a start date and you want to get to school before your start date. So if you are given an administrative processing letter, which we call a G sheet, it's a pink sheet, make sure that you read it, you listen to what the officer is asking from you, if they are asking for additional documents from you, and you provide those documents as soon as you can, okay? So when it comes to entering the United States, it is a two-step process. So the visa does not guarantee admission into the United States, but it does allow you travel to the port of entry. When you get to the port of entry, Customs and Border Patrol will determine whether you can enter. And again, this is based on the documents that you have. And one of those documents, of course, is your I-20. So make sure that you always travel with that. If you're allowed entry, you're then going to receive an admission stamp or a paper form I-94. So that means that you have been admitted as a student, and you can, go to your schools and start your programs. So of course, for more information on the CBP process of the House, you can go to www.cbp.gov/travel/international-visitors. Okay. So money. Let's talk about money, because that is one of the biggest things that we need to see in order to approve your student visa. We have to see again that you can cover up to a year, or at least a year. If it's more than a year, that's even better, but at least your first year of study, right? Total cost of US education is more than just tuition, because we have tuitions, we have fees. They can be random fees, they can be specific fees. We have room and board. Of course, if you find that you are going to be stay with a relative, you can explain that to the consular officer and say, well, I'm not factoring cost of room and board because I am staying with this relative. That will, of course, help us, but you do need to let the officer know, because otherwise they will automatically put that total into what they're calculating is your 1 year, right? And then, yes, and you also have to look at travel costs, especially as an international student, you are going to have to fly. So you're going to be looking at those travel costs, personal expenses, which include books. You will have to purchase books when you go to university. And so, yeah, we just remind people to look at all the costs, because total tuition and fees in the United States normally range between $16,000 and $75,000 per academic year. So again, when you come to your student visa interview, if you have a full scholarship, that is great. And again, maybe bring that scholarship documentation with you as well, so that when you present that and your Form I-20, then we know that you are covered for tuition. But if you do not have a full scholarship, or if you have other people who will be paying your tuition, then please make sure that you provide us with bank records, so that we can ensure that whoever is sponsoring you does have the full amount for at least 1 year, okay? And of course, you can contact us here at the embassy. Our website is jm.usembassy.gov. Again, when you apply for your student visa, you're going to go to usvisa-info.com. And if you have any specific questions on when it comes to processing, you want to email our NIV section, which is KingstonNIV@state.gov. The other good thing you can do, especially if it has to do with your passport being handled, and other application questions, then you can actually call our call center, and they will definitely help as much as they can. Okay. So I guess just to wrap up, when you come to your student visa interview, please make sure that you bring your form I-20, that you bring your SEVIS fee, and that you bring any financial documents if you're not fully covered from anyone that is going to be sponsoring you. Okay. So I think it might be time for some questions.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Camilla. Wow, that's a lot of information. I hope everyone was taking notes. So let's see. So with our first question, do you need to be vaccinated to get the student visa?
Okay. So I'm seeing, okay, perfect. So I think the question was when you are applying. So you do not, let me be clear, you do not need to be vaccinated in order to apply for your student visa. However, currently, in order to enter the United States, if you are not a citizen, you have to be fully vaccinated. And that is for anyone that's going on a tourist, student, any type of visa. If you are not a United States citizen at this time, you have to be vaccinated in order to enter the United States. So again, in order to be interviewed, you do not have to be. However, when you get, or in order to even board the plane to the United States, you do have to be fully vaccinated. If you get vaccinated between that time, that is fine. But yes, you do not need it in order to interview. You do need it in order to enter the United States.
Okay, thank you, Camilla. And I have another question here. Are students allowed to travel alone? That's so adorable.
They don't have to, but yes, students are of course allowed to travel alone as long as you have your student visa in your passport. That you are allowed to enter alone. Yes, yes, of course. I mean, if it's a minor child, it's probably best for a parent to accompany. And of course, for our parents in the audience, I'm sure you guys want to accompany when you can. So you, of course, can accompany your student, but the student can also enter by themselves as long as they have their F visa and their I-20 with them.
I'm not sure if that was a parent or a student, but just let you guys know, my mommy went with me and I was very, very grateful for that. I was 18 too, so I was not a minor, but yeah, if you can, it's good. It's good to accompany your child. All right. So next question, does the student visa apply to culinary institutions as well? Oh, we have a chef prospect in the house. Okay.
Ooh, that is actually a very good question. I think it depends on how long it is that your study is going to be. Because we have, what that might fall under is an M student, which is also a student, but it's more for technical school. So you will have to go up on some type of student visa, whether it's an F or an M. The best thing for you actually to do would be to go to travel.state.gov. So that's travel.state.gov. On that website, you can look up every single visa class that the USM that we offer. And it goes into detail on what type of student falls under which. Like I said, for most of our like institutions and colleges and stuff, you normally fall under the F visa, even if that's undergraduate, graduate, PhD, or even if you're going for, middle school or high school, you are an F student. For M students, that can be people who are going to be pilots, they're going to flight school, and other like technical institutions like that. So yes, I would advise you to go to travel.state.gov, and you should be able to find within there which category chef falls under. But I can tell you, you will, especially depending on the amount of time, you will need some kind of a special visa. And also you should probably talk to whatever institution you are planning on going to, because I'm sure that they have also had international students and can give you a better idea on what the process is for you to get there and what visa is needed for you.
Awesome stuff. Thank you, Camilla. And just a reminder to our audience, this is live on YouTube, guys. So go to U.S. Embassy Jamaica's YouTube channel, and I'm seeing somebody here said they got here late. So please visit our YouTube page if you have missed any part of this session. All right. So next question: are you able to travel back and forth to Jamaica on a student visa? Very good question.
Yes, that is a very good question. Yes, you can. So as long as you have your student visa and you are an active student, meaning that you are taking classes every single semester, then of course, yes, you can travel back and forth to Jamaica. Again, we live in COVID times, so you are still going to have to, every time you travel, obey the entry laws of the country that you are entering or departing from. But yes, as long as you have your student visa and it is valid in your passport, then you can travel back and forth. Because as a reminder, in case anyone didn't know, your student visa is valid for 5 years from the date of issuance. So, but again, it's valid for 5 years if you are an active student, and that means you have to be a full-time student while you are in the United States. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Camilla. All right, so I have a question here. Would the visitor's visa get canceled? Would my visitor visa get canceled if I got a student visa?
That's a very good question. It should not be canceled. You can actually have more than one non-immigrant visa in your passport. What you cannot have is a non-immigrant visa and an immigrant visa. In that case, the immigrant visa supersedes and you have to cancel your non-immigrant visa. But when it comes to non-immigrant visas, which would be a tourist and a student visa, no, it should not be canceled. You can have both a tourist visa and a student visa. However, for those students out there who do have both, remember that when you are entering the United States, you specifically tell the Customs and Border Patrol if you are going in as a student under your F visa, or if you are going as a tourist under your B visa. That will matter when it comes to renewal of your tourist visa later on down the road.
Okay, awesome stuff. And just another reminder, guys. So Camilla shared some very good links, and I also dropped them in the chat. So if you have any questions after this presentation, please read carefully. You guys, they spend a lot of time writing these tutorials and these instructions. So please read through them carefully. So I have a question here from a student. They started school last fall, but my classes were online. I'm applying for the student visa for spring 2022, but would like to know if there's anything different I should expect. So I'm guessing they couldn't go on campus because of COVID.
So we have a lot of people who did that. So basically, before you can travel to the United States on the semester where you're going to be in person. That's okay. You can have started classes, and in fact, it's a good indication for us that you've done a year of classes. One thing I would advise you to do maybe is bring your transcripts for that year as confirmation that you have been taking classes for that year. That's a good thing for us to be able to look at. But yeah, all you have to do is, make sure you get your student visa, because even though you've been a student at that university for a year, you still do need your F visa in order to enter the US. And make sure your I-20 shows your start date. And normally that can be adjusted. Like even if you've already done a year, they should be able to issue you a start date for the semester that you are entering the US on. So just make sure your form I-20 is updated. Make sure that you bring your transcripts from your first year. And yeah, just make sure you sign up for your appointment as early as you can, for your interview as early as you can.
Awesome stuff. Okay, so we have time for one last question. So if I finish my undergrad and move on to, say, medical school, would I need to apply for another student visa?
So like I said before, your student visa is valid for 5 years. So what this means is that after 5 years, if you are continuing your education, so like you said, if you were an undergrad and you're going to go to graduate school, or you're going to do your PhD, then once those 5 years are up, you do have to come back and reapply for a student visa. Because again, they're only valid for those 5 years. So then when you come to reapply, you would bring that new form I-20 with your new school so that we can see, you know, where you initially went to and where you are now. And yes, so the answer is you will need a new student visa once your 5-year one expires. And also the reason for that is if it expires, then if you come back to Jamaica, you cannot travel back to the US. You always need a valid student visa in your passport if you are traveling.
Awesome stuff. Well, Camilla, I thank you so much. And guys, just as a reminder, we have a wonderful show, Ask the Consul Live. It's every other Wednesday on Facebook.
So yeah, it's once a month. We have consular conversations. Okay. And then the first Wednesday of every month, we also are on a radio show. And also as a reminder, if you guys look on our Facebook page, we have done a student visa. We've done 2 actually student visa consular conversations that you guys can go and look at, and just to, especially before you guys come to your interview, you guys want to go look at those just as a refresher for what you need to bring and what it is we need for our student visas. Please make sure you look at those.
And I dropped those links in the chat. So thank you very much for all your help, Camilla. And guys, please visit the links, follow us on Facebook, watch this YouTube video, and I wish you all the best in your academic endeavors. Thank you again, Camilla. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Anytime. Bye.